All right, here's the intro video for 10.71 acres directly on the Niangua River in Dallas County, Missouri, a few miles downriver from Bennett Springs State Park. So just to jump into it, we've got the property in the middle of the screen outlined here in red. The entire east side borders Marigold Drive for about 65 feet. The property gets wider as you go to the west, and it's at its widest point at the river, where it has about 330 feet, actually slightly over. The survey map shows 332 feet of direct river frontage on the Niangua River. So these, like I said, this is Marigold Drive here on the east. That's a county road, gravel road. These yellow lines indicate road easements on the property. And then this dotted line or this dashed line is the power line, which is directly on the property toward the middle here. So although the property does have frontage, 65 feet of frontage on Marigold, there's not a driveway leading onto the property, but in order to access the various parts of the property, you just go north on Marigold for a few hundred feet, take a left, go through a little gate, and then take this easement road, which goes down the hill, crosses the property, get to the bottom, and you can take a right and go back to the meadow area on the property. It actually crosses over it. And then obviously the open meadow, you can drive over here to the west or whatnot. So also this the yellow line you see on the east side, that's a 50-foot road easement in place over the east side of these tracts out here at Riverside at the Niangua. So that roadway hasn't been cleared yet, but there is a 50-foot easement there for access. So potentially at some point, if that roadway is cleared, you could, instead of cutting left and going toward the middle and down, you could go down this road easement and get to your property that way. So I mean, a lot of different options for building. I would assume, or I would guess that most people would probably gravitate toward this meadow area. Because, well, for one thing, it's gorgeous down there, and for another thing, it'd be a fairly easy spot to build since it's already open. Power is directly on the property, like I said, so that's not too far to get the power if you do your building site here. As long as we're talking about building, this is a good time to show you where the floodplain lies on the property. Oop, there we go. Okay. So on the MapRight program, that you can do different layers, and I'm using the floodplain layer. So this has given us what I assume is a really good idea about the flood zone, the FEMA flood zone on the property. So it's this western edge, and I mean any major river, any real river is going to have a flood zone unless there's a bluff. In this case, there is on the west side, there's a bit of a bluff, but on the east side, it's fairly level. It slopes up from the river. So one of the things that makes this property really special is you actually have a large buildable area here in this meadow on the west side. So if you've looked at river property before, you'd know that meadows that are basically adjacent to a major river are almost always entirely in the floodplain. In this case, a large portion of this meadow is high and dry. In fact, we can do the measurement function here on MapRight. This is the full version of MapRight, which you're welcome to purchase, but you don't need that. If you just get the free MapRight app, we can send you this interactive map, and you can actually use that when you go to look at the property. We can send you the link for this. It's really great. But I believe if you get the full version, you can do everything we can do. So we're just kind of measuring this area. It's close to about 3 acres in that beautiful meadow, high and dry there out of the flood zone. So that's one of the many things that makes this property really special. That and obviously I already mentioned the Niangua River, but the really cool thing is this happens to be in a white ribbon trout fishing section of the Niangua River. We're about 6 or 7 miles downriver from Bennett Springs State Park, and they also have a trout hatchery there, and they release rainbow trout and brown trout into the water. And so there is a 12-mile stretch of river where you can actually fish for trout here in the Niangua, and this happens to have direct frontage on that stretch of water. So pretty incredible. If we zoom out a little bit, you can see another one of the many things that makes this an incredible property. Whoops. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing there. Let's turn that off. Okay. So almost directly across the river, just across and down a few feet, is the huge Barclay Conservation Area, which is over 400 acres of land that I'm told is open for hunting, for recreation, for um, just generally having fun with. And like I said, that's almost directly across. It's across, and then if you were to go into the river and go upriver, uh, everything on the right for about 1.5 miles is the conservation area. And also this area here on the south side of the conservation area, we visited that a few times. There's a big parking area, and then there's a huge place where you can put your canoe or kayak or even your boat into the Niagara River right here. Really popular drop-off and pickup point. If you want to, it's a fun little kind of a mini float. Is have your buddies drop you off here, and then they drive back to your property, and you float down the river, about a 20 or 30-minute float directly to your own property, and then you can take out directly on your property, which is great. As long as we're zooming out, let's do this. We'll go to Street Map. Zoom out a little bit. There you can see the property, the conservation area. This is the Bennett Springs State Park and also fish hatchery. That's right on Highway 64 there. So the fish hatchery, they stock the river, and this 12-mile stretch going past the property and all the way to the Prosperine access. That is it as far as the white ribbon trout area. So I mean, you can see the Niagara River is quite a lengthy river, and in and of itself, it's extremely popular. So within that popular river, you've got this super rare 12-mile stretch where you can trout fish, and that's where this property is with direct frontage. Quite a bit of direct frontage, over 300 feet, so that's pretty cool. Good location here to the southeast, about 15 miles. You've got Lebanon, Missouri, right on I-44. To get to the property from Lebanon, just go west on, I'll tell you the easiest way. There's a slightly quicker way that involves a few more twists and turns, but the least complicated way is to take Highway 64 to the west, all the way to Bennett Springs. You'll see the Niagara River, and just before you cross the Niagara, you're going to go north. So you'll take a right if you're coming from Lebanon, but you'll go north onto Marigold Drive. And you follow that up all the way to the property. There'll be a few Ys in the road, stay to the left, stay to the left, stay to the left, and then you end up directly at the property. So if we zoom out a little more, we can show you where we are in the great state of Missouri. Property about in the middle of the screen. Springfield is what I was about to say. Springfield to the southwest, a little over an hour. Branson is 20 minutes south of Springfield, 20-30 minutes. This is Lake of the Ozarks, which is an extremely popular recreational lake here in the Ozarks. Kansas City, about 2.5 hours to the northwest. St. Louis, about 2.5 hours to the northeast. So major airports within a couple hours in every direction. Actually, Springfield has a really good airport, and there's a new airport in Branson, but Springfield, a lot of flights in and out of there. So basically, no matter where you are, you can get some, say this is your vacation property, you can grab a cheap flight into Springfield or a dirt cheap flight into Kansas City or St. Louis, drive to the property, spend the weekend, spend a week or two in the summer, just relax and enjoy that river. I mean, it is an awesome, awesome stretch of water, super popular. I mean, in the summertime, there's a lot of activity there. You've got several resorts right in that area because it is the most popular area on the river here. So if we switch back to the map, this map, you can see almost directly across, well, across and downriver a little bit is One-Eyed Willie's. I've been calling that Maggard canoe on the videos, but it turns out Maggard is actually down here, if this map is correct. Ho-Hum Canoe Rental and Campground over here. So, I mean, a lot of cool stuff. One option would be to just rent a cabin or a campsite or something at one of those places, and then you've got a direct place to stay, and you can spend the day kind of goofing off on your property. and still go back to the campground in the evening and get yourself a shower or use their facilities or whatever. Um, if you stay at Ho Hum, that'd be on the same side of the river, or stay at Maggard or One Eyed Willie's. I mean, you can walk across that river to your property if you want to do so. So that's pretty cool. Let's do this. Let's go to a topo map. We'll show you how this property is situated. So on the topo map, the lines indicate elevation changes of 20 feet. So every fifth line is 100 feet. The dark lines are just indicating 100-foot intervals. So every fifth line is going to be a dark colored line. So on the property, it's going to be the highest on the east side by Marigold. It then slopes down as you go to the west. You get to about the middle of the property and you're getting close to that field. It starts to slope less and less, where by the time you get to the field itself it's not flat, but it's very gently sloped. The edge of the field slopes down to the river basin area, I guess you'd say, which is more or less flat as well. So from the field to the river, you've got a little bit of a drop, and then flat here. This is kind of like a huge gravel bar, I guess you'd say. And let's go back to Google and we'll do a close-up here. Whoop. Okay, so we'll start, get as close as we can. So on the east side, here's Marigold. Again, does have direct frontage on Marigold. You're welcome to clear your own driveway there if you want to. If you don't want to mess with that, just go right on up a few hundred feet. You've got a deeded easement along this easement road, which takes you right to and across the property. As we go down here, it gets wider and wider as you go toward the river. But I mean, if you wanted to build in this wooded area, you'd have a little more of a view, and I mean, it's wide enough to do that. If you look right here, for example, that's about 170 feet wide. You'll have some setback, obviously, from the power line, and you do have a setback off the roadways as well. But the normal setback on the side boundaries on a rural recreational property would probably be about 30 feet. That's less here to give you more building space. I believe it's been changed to 5 feet from the side boundaries. So I think it's roughly, check the listing or ask us to be sure, because I don't have everything right in front of me, but I think the setback is I'm not sure. I believe it's 100 feet off the easement roads, but double check that. I mean, either way, most of 95% of this meadow is going to be in an area where you can build. But do keep in mind that you've got the floodplain. You want to stay out of that completely. You don't want to have to bother with that. There's just no good reason to build within the floodplain when you have this beautiful site right here. Okay. Okay, so as we zoom in here, and having power directly on the property is a big plus too. Okay, as we zoom in here, here's the meadow. This almost looks like a channel of the river. It's I don't know if you call it that, or maybe a drainage basin, but this is the main channel of the river. This often has water in it, sometimes it does not. When we were down there doing the video, if you watch the ground video, you'll see we were able to walk directly across here. We actually could have taken a four-wheeler right across here if we wanted to into this area, and then we walked down to the main river frontage and check that out. It's gorgeous. But if you wanted to, you could get a skid loader or a tractor with a loader and kind of push down some of this dirt or gravel and create a good driveway right into here. 'Cause I think ultimately, if I were to personally to keep this property or use it as a vacation spot for the family, the first thing I would personally do is probably get out here with a piece of equipment and make a drivable trail right to the main channel, and it would only take a couple hours. Just a suggestion there. But what else to see? I mean, I could go on and on about this one. This is just a really rare property. We were so excited to get this tract out here on the Niagara River. And I mean, when these things are gone, they're gone. They're just, we've looked for years and years and years and years to find anything on the Niagara, and this is about it. I mean, especially within, I mean, we never dreamt that we'd get something within the white ribbon trout fishing section. So that's just unbelievable. But check out InstantAcres.com. If the property is still available, then you will see it on our website. We store all the videos on YouTube. The buyers request that we leave them on there. So unfortunately, just because it's on YouTube doesn't mean it's available. But pretty simple. All you have to do is go to InstantAcres.com, and that is where we keep the available properties. So if you don't see it, unfortunately, it's not available. But feel free to give us a call in the office or shoot us an email at sales@instantacres.com. We can let you know. We can let you know whatever you like. This property, any other property that we may have available, we would love to talk to you. Special tract, 10.71 acres, tract 11 at Riverside at the Niangua. InstantAcres.com.